I've got some shocking news for you, right? The Daily Express, what used to be known as the sort of the paper of World War II propaganda under Lord Beaverbrook, has gone green. Join our Green Britain Revolution is what it says on the front page. And extraordinarily, it's a major new Daily Express campaign. They've done a survey of over 2,000 people, which is a believable one, therefore. And apparently most people want to improve the environment and fix the climate crisis. Let's talk to what can be only described as the acceptable face of the Green Revolution. That is, of course, Mr. Dale Vince. Dale, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike. How's things?
Not bad at all. Now, listen, this is some coup, pulling off this campaign with the Daily Express. How did you manage it? Extraordinary.
Yeah, we just had a conversation a few weeks ago, and one thing led to another. And you know, those guys, they just really bought into the whole idea. They went away, did their own research, ran their own opinion poll, and decided it would be the next big campaign that they ran.
Now, it says here they want to save the environment and boost the UK economy by £21 billion. Now, that's one of those things that you would absolutely want to do in terms of, you know, it seems to benefit everybody. But does it really? Because I suspect the small print will find people getting taxed for things that you don't like, and people not being taxed for things that you do like.
Yeah, I mean, that's a part of the campaign that we're going to launch tomorrow. We're calling it Zero for Zero, and it's really calling on the government to change VAT now, because you pay 20% VAT on solar panels for your home, but only 5% for coal. One is the cleanest form of energy we know of, and the other is the dirtiest. And the government used to say that we can't change VAT because we're in the EU, but that doesn't apply anymore. So we're writing to Rishi Sunak tomorrow to say, come on, let's have a Brexit boost for the green economy.
So how would that actually work, though, in terms of solar paneling, for example? I mean, I couldn't put a solar panel probably on my roof, but if I wanted to, how much would it cost me?
It's a few £1,000s, but the issue there really, Mike, is that you have to pay VAT on top. And, you know, to get to a zero carbon economy, we've got targets for that by 2050 and all that kind of stuff. We need more people to do more things like put solar panels on the roof. It's only one example. And if we charge people VAT for doing the good things, then we just make it harder and less of it gets done. And it doesn't make sense because we have to get there. So that's our call to the government, really. Change the tax system so that we're not taxing good behavior.
But nobody really buys coal anymore, do they?
Apparently they do.
Really?
Yeah, apparently.
I mean, I moved into a house in Wiltshire once that had a big coal scuttle in it, right? and so I literally found a load of coal, and it was fantastic. It's the hottest thing I've ever put in a fire. Amazing.
Yeah, coal does burn really hot, but it's also so dirty, isn't it? I mean, it's the highest carbon form of energy that we know of. But you know, the same policy applies to electric cars, for example, Mike. In Norway, they've got no VAT on electric cars, and last year 50% of all new car sales were electric. In our country, there's VAT, and last year our sales were 10% electric. It's a very easy change to make.
Yeah, but electric cars are expensive, Dale, aren't they? And you and I have spoken before about the fact that they're not particularly green, because you still got to make the car, you still got to dig the batteries, and you know, use slave labour in Africa to find the batteries, and then you've still got rubber tyres which are going to deteriorate and make the environment less friendly. You know, it's not the answer, is it?
Well, I think it is actually. I mean, what you've got to remember is we're comparing electric cars to fossil fuel powered cars, and all forms of mining have an impact on the environment. But with the fossil fuel, you're mining a single use fuel. You burn it, it's gone. With lithium, you mine it and you use it almost forever because it's endlessly recyclable.
Well, when you say almost forever, when your electric car is 10 years old, don't you have to get a new battery?
That's what I'm saying, Mike. It can be recycled. The lithium in that battery can be reused. With a fossil fuel, you dig it up, you burn it, it's gone. With lithium, you dig it up, you use it, you can reuse it, and then reuse it again.
Yeah, but if you recycle something, that takes energy, doesn't it? So, you know, you're actually kind of... It's like that ridiculous argument people make about washing bottles before you put them in the recycling bin. By the time you've used the water to wash the bottle and you put it in the recycling bin and driven there to put it there, you've already cancelled out the saving you've made for the environment.
Yeah, except that there are a lot of good examples where recycling is much more energy efficient. Aluminium is a great example. Smelting aluminium from aluminium ore takes an awful lot of energy. Recycling aluminium takes a lot less, and it's the same with lithium.
I don't have much use for aluminium in the house, to be honest.
Okay.
Well, I haven't got any.
You might have an aluminium hat.
No, it's tin foil, mate. Don't you know?
Oh yeah, tin foil.
Yeah, it's not the same thing. I can reuse that and wrap my roast beef in it. You also want to attack people for eating meat, don't you?
No, I don't want to attack people for anything, actually.
No, you want to put taxes on them, though.
Oh, well, actually, one of the things we're pointing out tomorrow to the Chancellor is that there's no VAT on red meat, right, which is the highest carbon form of food that we can choose. But there is VAT on some plant foods like nuts. How does that make sense, is what we're saying.
Well, if you take 20% off a packet of nuts, do you really think people are going to start eating them more?
Well, it just shouldn't be made more expensive, should it? Because then
Well, they're not,
the
are
choice,
they? I mean, nuts are cheap,
well,
red meat's expensive.
I don't think that's right. But, the choices everybody needs to make are to take the green alternatives in energy, transport, and food, how we power ourselves, how we travel, and what we eat. And if we make those alternatives more expensive, it means less people will choose them. It's a matter of kind of simple economics. I mean, that's what the tax system does best. It steers behavior by putting a price on bad behavior.
No, but I don't think the tax system is there to steer behaviour. This is the trouble with the world we now live in. It's all full of people who want to steer other people's behaviour. Surely the tax system is to try and make the economy fairer for people. And by putting up the price of food, you're just punishing poor people.
Well, fairness, I'm all for. And what I'm saying is there's no VAT on red meat and there is VAT on nuts. So where's the fairness in that?
Well, because if you want to eat nuts, it's a luxury item, so put VAT on it. That's what I would say. Whereas red meat is considered to be something of a necessity for your protein and all the rest of it.
No, but red meat is a luxury item, isn't it? And for people that don't eat
not
animals,
rubbish. Well,
yeah, it is.
They call it meat and drink for a reason.
That's an old world view.
An old world view. Well, pardon me.
People that don't eat animals, nuts are a vital source of protein. Why are you?
You've got to eat a lot of nuts to make up for a roast beef sandwich.
No, absolutely not. So why penalise vegans and not?
Well, I would penalise vegans just as a matter of course.
Of course, but a vegan diet is much better for the environment.
Well, it might be, yeah, but I mean, people should be able to choose, Dale, shouldn't they? I mean, I'm not in favour of this kind of, making people behave in the way that you want them to behave. When freedom of choice is very important. I mean, we've seen this with the whole COVID rules and the lockdown, and people having arguments about civil liberties and what we should be allowed to do with ourselves and what we should not be allowed to do. And I think the more rules you put on people, the less likely they are to do it.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, Mike, and I agree with you. But what's happening at the moment is we're pointing out the inconsistency that good behavior is being taxed more than bad behavior. So the high carbon things have got no tax and the low carbon things have got tax. And I'm just saying that can't be right.
Yeah, but you say you believe in fairness and you're calling people that eat red meat people indulging in bad behavior. I don't think that's fair.
I'm talking in broad terms. I mean, I'm on your show. I mean, this is how you talk, Mike. And I think it is fair because if you look at what the animal farming industry
I don't call people
is
bad
doing to the world.
No, listen, I don't call people bad for not eating meat. If you don't want to eat meat, that's your choice. Be my guest.
It's bad. Yeah. But in broad terms, it's bad behavior because it's driving the climate crisis. If you look at the animal farming industry, that's what it's doing. It's one of the biggest contributors to the global climate crisis and wildlife extinction and habitat depletion. It's an incredible waste of resource.
Well, you say that, but I mean, if you've been to Borough Market recently, because there's an awful lot of very, very good businesses there who are run on a very small local business means, and they are organic producers of very, very fine produce. And I would be very unlikely to agree with you that that is a bad thing, because they're not. I mean, if you want to tell me that McDonald's owning half of Iowa and buying up all the crops and feeding them all to millions and millions of cattle, I'd probably agree with you that that's not great. But most of the farming in this country, and it's moving more and more that way, is becoming less sort of factory-like.
Mike, 90% of all of the meat produced in our country is farmed indoors intensively.
What do you mean by intensively?
Oh, in a farm, in a factory environment where the animals never get to go outside, exactly the kind of farming environment that's driving the global climate
Well, that's not
crisis.
true of cows at all, is it? Because you say, well, what do you think all those cows are doing in a field?
Well, there are some cows in fields, absolutely.
Well, you're saying there are cows that don't get out?
Absolutely.
Well, that's not the bulk of them, though. I don't agree with that. I'd like to see
check
evidence.
Out the stats.
Well, I'd like to see evidence of that.
Google it.
Google's not evidence. Tell me where it's happening. No, you tell me where it's happening, and I'll go and have a look.
Okay.
Seriously.
I'll send you a link after the show. I'll send you something after the show.
All right, and then we can approach them and ask them to stop doing it. I'm with you. I don't wish to see animals mistreated. I don't wish to see cruelty being doled out for the purposes of cheap meat and cheap farming. But at the same time, I think it's a bit unfair for you to nominate what you think is good behaviour and to try and penalise financially those people who are not doing that.
Yeah, but actually, Mike, I'm saying the opposite. I'm saying don't penalize the people that are not doing that. That's all I'm saying. I'm not calling for the penalization of anybody, only the lifting of penalization.
Well, have you got
And I'm
anything?
glad to hear.
Well, have you got
I'm
anything
glad to hear
other
what you
than
said about me.
have you got anything other than penalising people for eating nuts? What else are you trying to get?
Well, solar panels, electric cars, energy efficiency for your home. People need to reduce their energy bills. It saves them money, reduces energy poverty, but you pay 20% VAT on that, which is just craziness.
Yeah, but
That
we
kind of
also
stuff.
pay a green tariff, don't we, on all of our electricity bills as well? Which I don't know where that goes.
Well, no, but also we pay 2 billion a year to subsidize factory farming in our country, Mike. We don't know that because it's not on our bills at the supermarket checkout, but we pay it through taxes.
Well, we pay a lot of things through taxes, and there's a lot of things that we pay through taxes that I'm not particularly keen on. But I'm not convinced that this. I mean, I'm all for building up the economy. I believe the government should spend their way out of this recession that we're in, caused by the pandemic. And I'm all for, evolution and revolution and interesting ideas. I just think you're coming at it from an ideological perspective because you can't see the wood for the trees, literally.
Well, I think that's it. That's not true, Mike. I'm coming at it from a logical, factual, statistical point of view. I know that 90% of animals farmed in Britain are farmed intensively, which is driving the climate crisis. You don't know that because you haven't checked it out, but I
No,
have.
I don't believe there is a climate crisis either. That's the other thing.
Okay.
I mean, I'm sorry, there isn't. There
Back
is.
to
There is.
that.
There are plenty of other crises that we could talk about, but not the climate crisis. I mean, are you seriously telling me that you are one of those people that think that we're all going to be extinct by 2030?
Well, I don't think we're going to be extinct, but we absolutely have a climate crisis.
Well, that's
I mean,
what
the
your mates
science
in
is
Extinction
clear.
Rebellion think, though, isn't it?
I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. But that's to mischaracterize at least what I'm saying, which is, the climate is being affected by man-made carbon emissions. They're higher than they've been for millions of years. We can see the extreme weather events around the world. It cost the world 150 billion last year in damage. I mean, look what's been happening in Australia, for example. They've had one natural disaster after another. These are fitting the climate model quite perfectly.
And
So,
what do
there is a
what do
climate
they
crisis.
do? What do they do for the climate that we don't do?
Well, they don't actually. I was just checking out per capita carbon footprints before I came on the show, and theirs is really high.
Yeah, and ours is really low, isn't it?
No, I wouldn't say it's really low.
Well, we
I
don't
could tell you
produce
where
very much. Most of the carbon produced in the atmosphere is not produced by the UK, is it?
It's produced by the burning of fossil fuels and the farming of animals. That's where it comes from.
Well, it's not produced by the UK, though. We are one of the greenest countries already in the world.
We're pretty well down the list, I would say. I think we've got half the carbon emissions per capita of America, which is one of the worst. But the surprising countries at the top of the list are Qatar, Montenegro, Kuwait. I mean, they're right at the top. They've got probably 20 times our carbon emissions, which is incredible.
But is that because of their industry? Is that because of their oil industry?
I think it is, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So,
But
I mean,
this is where all carbon comes
it's
from.
like everything. It's how you measure these things, isn't it? But listen, Dale,
Sorry.
Go on.
It's not based on exports of oil. It's based on what they use.
No, I'm not suggesting it's about what they. I'm presuming it's because they produce it, and therefore, in the production of it, they create an awful lot of carbon, and they create an awful lot of environmental damage.
No, it's what they consume.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's very cheap. My daughter lives in Dubai. You can drive around in a car and literally pay something like 50p to fill the tank. I mean, it's ludicrous.
Yeah, madness.
It is madness. But listen, Dale, I wish you luck with the Express and their Green Britain Revolution. If there's anything we can do here at Talk Radio, you've always got a place for us here. You can always once we are back up and running, we're allowed to get people in again. You'll have to come back in your you get on your electric motorbike and come up.
I'll do that, Mike. Thanks very much.
Good
Take
stuff.
care.
Dale Viz, thank you very much indeed. Founder of Ecotricity. Now, you may say to me that you agree with Dale. I mean, for example, according to the Express here, what we've got is a survey in which, to what extent are you worried or relaxed about each of the following? The state of the planet that future generations will inherit. Worried, 66%. Climate change, worried, 66%. A decline in wildlife, worried, 66%. I smell a rat. And it's not a vegan one.